Welcome to the Positive Vibes Podcast with KJ Today, a positive show with people to know, powered by the Towne Post Network. Hi there, I am KJ, and I am so excited to have you with me. My mission is to bring you some positive vibes, and we do that with interesting people and things going on in the community that you need to know. We are powered by the Towne Post Network. Thank you so much for watching along with us, and get ready as we will be having more and more episodes of the Positive Vibes Podcast. As I found out doing the KJ Today show, that 1 hour is not enough for me to introduce you to all of the amazing, positive, cool things that are going on in our community. We are based in Indianapolis, and of course, the Towne Post covers so much of what's going on in our community that it was just absolutely a pleasure and an honor to be asked to bring you more positive vibes. If you are interested in the KJ Today show, or maybe just learning about it, I would love for you to join us. KJ Today is live on my Facebook page and my YouTube channel. It's every Wednesday night we go live. We share with you some celebrity guests. We share with you what's happening in the community. And because we absolutely love pets and they always bring us the positive vibes, we bring you a pet of the week every week. Again, that is Wednesday nights live, or you can catch up on demand. Just go to kjtodayshow.com. Joining me today to bring you some positive vibes from Conner Prairie, I have with me the hosts of the all-new This Is Problematic podcast, Easton, Phillips, and Hannah Murphy. Welcome to the Positive Vibes Show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You know, last week on the KJ Today show, when I brought this up, like, hey, we're doing the Positive Vibes podcast, and I've got these really cool people. We're going to be talking about history and the problems with history. And the podcast is called This Is Problematic. My producer, and I had not told her anything about it, producer Jonna said, this is going to be good. So let's start a little bit with what the podcast is about. And then I want to get to know the two of you and why it made sense, for the two of you to get together. So This Is Problematic is a podcast that can be found on connerprairie.org. It is presented by Conner Prairie, and I will let you take it away, Easton, starting off with how this came about and what people can expect.
Sure, Miss KJ. Thank you so much. Happy to be here. The podcast was a long-term goal of the institution. It's always an idea that had been kind of just floating out in the ether. Everyone wanted one because podcasts are, the new wave thing and the fun way for people to get their information while they're doing other things. But no one knew who was going to do it. And so us in the curatorial department, as we started doing our research for our brand new exhibit, open now, and it's the first cabin of which exhibit is open now on Conner Prairie's grounds. It's the exhibit Promised Land is Proving Ground. And that exhibit gave us the opportunity to learn a lot about Indiana's history from the perspective of Black spirituality and just Hoosiers that don't really get a lot of credit in the way that history is taught now. And so we got so much leftover material in our day work. We were like, it would be great if we could present our additional findings and connect with new audiences and kind of continue Conner Prairie's goal of changing the way people use history. And so that's kind of how the podcast was born, and we haven't looked back since.
And how was it decided that Easton and Hannah were going to be the hosts of this brand new show, This Is Problematic? Hannah?
Yeah, so we pitched the idea of this podcast based, as Easton said, off our research. And so when we made that pitch, part of it was that we want to kind of throw the doors open to the historical process and welcome people in, especially those who maybe have not felt welcomed in traditional museum spaces in the past for a variety of reasons, are unable to access. We see often the kind of 20, 30 something audience is often kind of miss, or not coming in on field trips like our school kids are, and so they often feel quite left out of the historical process. And so obviously being in that age group ourselves and also being the ones doing the research, it just made sense that we would be the ones to share our expertise, but also our excitement on the podcast format.
Well, I am excited to find out a little bit about the some of the topics that you got into, because we do have, it is streaming now, and it is, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a podcast. You kind of threw up all the episodes, and I love these type of podcasts where you're like, yeah, I totally want to get into this, and then you can just binge it all. So what are some of those topics that you were, the two of you, in discussing what are we going to make of this, we're excited to bring to the table and get out there and discuss? This is history that is problematic.
Do you want to start?
I can, yeah. So yeah, it's totally binge worthy, as well as on our website. It can be found on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so all the normal kind of podcast places. And I think some of the major topics that we were most excited about, one of the things that really excited us diving in was that it allows us to discuss local topics, but then zoom out and take that wider national and international lens and connect with people across the country and even across the world, while still having important discussions about, obviously, this kind of Indianapolis area that we're in. We're in Fishers, so just to the north of Indianapolis. And so some of the things that we've talked about at the local level have been gentrification in the city of Indianapolis. We had community member and an expert in the museum field come in and talk with us about that. We did a 3-part series on our museum itself and our own history, because we feel like it's really important that every organization, every person is really continuing to do that internal work as well as that external work, and exploring different problematic topics related to that. And then also we did take some really kind of big topics like criminal justice issues. We looked at a local case study, but then at national issues. And so those are some of the things that we were excited to dive into. Do you feel like there's things missing there?
No, a lot of stuff that we ended up diving into, we also kind of discovered. Like, for example, we take aim at a problematic journalist who is still to this day in the Indiana Journalism Hall of Fame. His name is Dale Wright Burgess, and he wrote this book that we discovered has got some major issues. So that was actually our first time chronologically getting our entire curatorial department together, and we all just kind of bringing our expertise, kind of discussed why these things are issues, hopefully trying to spur on some action for the future, or at least.
Well, yeah, I think that's the whole, I would imagine, driving force behind this is not only pointing out that these errors or embellished tellings of how we, to certain people, wanted us to write history, bringing that to light and saying, hey, first we need to have the conversation, but then let's move it forward on how we change this. So has there been a shift at Conner Prairie as far as the history telling that is being done at Conner Prairie?
Yeah, we've seen a massive shift here, and that's part of the reason this podcast exists, is because of that shift. And so a lot of the focus has become about what has been missing from the stories that have been being told, encouraging people to step into the story and be able to see themselves in more of the stories that we're telling.
Well, and you mentioned, Hannah and Easton, both of you mentioned, this is obviously, there's a lot on a local level, that we have to talk about, but these are national issues and these are international issues. And even though we're here in Indiana right now, Easton, you're originally from Cincinnati, and Hannah, you're from Scotland. So, do you feel like, the two of you together embracing some change here in Indiana is going to have some ripple effects because of the fact that you are from different places? Easton, thinking about it. Hannah. I didn't need to come in with the hard-hitting questions, but I do know in your introduction podcast that you did mention that you were going to try very hard to not make this about Cincinnati. But I think we often make things about what we know, and that's what you know, right?
I do think in moving here, probably you could probably speak more to this, Hannah, but there was definitely, I noticed a difference in how history is taught. I grew up in Cincinnati, and of course, Cincinnati has a lot of history and museums. So I worked at a lot of the basically, I've at least visited or donated some sort of service through either volunteer work to pretty much every historical museum in the downtown Cincinnati area. And the whole reason I know about Conner Prairie is because while I was doing a program at the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center right down there on the river, we took a visit out to Conner Prairie, and I saw a great difference in how history is how the stories are told. Some of the things that I thought was just common knowledge back in Cincinnati are not common knowledge in Indiana. And so I feel like when we were starting the podcast planning stage in the early stages, I kept bringing up museums I'd already been at. Like, this is like this, and this is not like this. And I was like, I'm going to try to rein that in a little bit, and not every episode has to be why Cincinnati can't have nice things or things like that. But, I think if there's anything I want people to take away, it's that we all benefit from a different way of thinking. If we can just tweak the way we perceive information just a little bit, maybe it takes a person from Cincinnati or Scotland to really tap into the heart of Indiana's history. And we've gotten a lot of feedback, mostly positive.
Good.
So
and,
that's always good.
Occasionally, if you don't have a little bit of negative feedback, if you're not making anybody mad, you're probably not being noticed, is what I've been told. So.
Yeah. Well, we've been noticed.
And Hannah, I know we only have a couple more minutes, but how does one end up telling history, sharing history in Indiana when your roots are in Scotland?
Yeah, I know my accent is all over the place, but I was raised over there. My dad is American, my mom is Scottish, and so I met my husband over here visiting one time, and so I moved over when I married him. And my undergraduate degree is in history from back home, and so I began working in museums over here, and was thrilled to be offered an opportunity a few years ago to come up here to Conner Prairie. And I love getting to tell. I feel like there are so many similarities in local experiences, no matter where you are in the world. And so it's always fun getting to work in the history field to get to know your community and your area so well. Doing this work, I feel like it really does let me kind of connect in with the local area, and I love that about my work. So yeah, it's kind of just been a natural progression. But I'm a student here now as well, a master's degree at IUPUI. So I definitely feel like I'm becoming more Hoosier.
Becoming a Hoosier, yes. I'm originally from Wisconsin, so it was like, how much time do I spend here before I get to use the word Hoosier?
Yeah.
All right. Before we let you go, because the KJ Today Show is about positive vibes with pop culture and people to know and pets, I always got to ask, is there something in pop culture right now, a TV show, a movie, something that you are super into or that you would recommend to all of us?
You go first.
Do you want me to go? I think the most recent thing my husband and I have been binging that was really interesting and got me thinking was the Severance show. I think it's on I want to say we watched it on HBO. But it's interesting. It messed with my head a little, but I'm excited for season 2 to come out and see where they take that. How about you? What are you watching just now?
Well, right just now I'm watching here we go again, Cincinnati. I don't watch a lot of shows like I used to. I watch a lot of live sports, and of course the Bengals are trying to go back to the Super Bowl this year.
Yes.
So I am along for the ride here. But the last time I was in a movie theater, I saw the new Jordan Peele movie Nope. And
oh my gosh.
I cannot don't listen to what people are saying. Please go and see it for yourself. And I want to recommend it. It's very grand and sweeping and cinematic, and it's a Western, and it's not what you think it is. I think it's like similar to Severance. It makes you think a little bit about symbolism and what the meanings within the meanings are. So.
Well, thank you guys for playing along a little bit in the pop culture world with me. And thank you for joining me on Positive Vibes. Again, the podcast is called This is Problematic. It is presented by Conner Prairie. You can find it at connerprairie.org or, of course, on all the places you get your podcasts like Apple and Spotify. Easton and Hannah are your hosts, and it has been absolutely lovely to talk with both of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
The KJ Today Show is live on Wednesday, so you can watch along with me for more positive vibes. Go to kjtodayshow.com and stay tuned for more of the Positive Vibes podcast presented by the Towne Post. This has been the Positive Vibes podcast with KJ Today, powered by the Towne Post Network, a positive show about people to know. For more with me, KJ, make sure you watch the KJ Today Show on Wednesday nights live at 7 or catch up on demand at youtube.com/KJ Today.